This is Speak of the Devils on AZ Family Sports.
Welcome to Speak of the Devils, the premier TV show for Sun Devil football. I'm Brad Denny with 3TV.
And I'm Joe Healey with DevilsDigest.com.
Joe, we've been covering this team a long time, and we know the Sun Devils pretty well. We're not often wrong, but we're pretty glad that we were very, very wrong last week.
My goodness, what a win for the Devils over top 10 ranked Texas Tech last Saturday afternoon in Mountain America Stadium. Yeah, Brad and I both picked some big L's for ASU. Mine was by a large margin. Like, I wasn't even really close, not quitting any day jobs, but you know what? I have no problem confessing that here today because it was a huge win for the Devils. Things that kind of feel like ASU is starting to get back on track for those really lofty preseason expectations we all had.
Yeah, the Sun Devils are now number 24 in the polls. They are, again, in great position to make a run over the remaining schedule to get back to the Big 12 championship game, but that's not going to be easy because there's 5 tough games ahead, including this Saturday when they're hosting a 6-win Houston Cougar team. But, Joe, let's dive into what happened when ASU took down number 7 Texas Tech, 26-22. Now, it was of course, it was an ASU game, so there was some tense moments. ASU was really in control of the game for about 3.5 quarters, thanks to the efforts of the defense, allowing just under 300 yards and 22 points on the day. Just really ferocious, flying to the ball. The secondary played maybe the best game that they've had in the Kenny Dillingham era, and really putting the clamps on one of the nation's best offenses.
Man, what a difference a week makes. The week prior in Utah, ASU's defense had just a flat-out embarrassing day against the Utes. That did a total 180 against the Red Raiders because, as you mentioned, Texas Tech is arguably the top offense in the country, statistically speaking, and ASU pretty much shut them down for the most part defensively. It was a really, really impressive thing to see. Again, it seemed like too tall of a task for ASU to take on, especially after such a disturbing loss at Utah. But, man, the Devils just erased that memory immediately, came onto the field at Frank Kush Field ready to go. And, again, it wasn't perfect. There were some lapses, but not enough to make it a loss. ASU walks out with that big win.
Yeah, they were in control in that fourth quarter until some touchdowns by Texas Tech, and some helped by a little bit by ASU special teams, which we'll rip into here in a minute. But really, just from the jump, ASU's defense forcing 4 punts and then a turnover on downs over the first 5 Texas Tech possessions, and really just in control the entire way through. But because this was an ASU game, there was some tense moments, some drama, and that came when ASU fell behind late in the ball game. They needed a touchdown. They needed points late. And the offense behind Sam Levitt, they came through in the clutch.
And it was a career day for Sam Levitt, going over 300 passing yards. That's, of course, after he missed the Utah game due to injury. So just being a warrior for Arizona State against Texas Tech. Similar thing can be said about Jordan Tyson. There's not much more you can continue to say. Another 10-catch game, another 100-yard game. You saw near the end he was favoring that leg. And on that just borderline miraculous catch and run to keep that drive alive at the end. You could see him kind of limping through it, but he got as much yardage as he could to set ASU up with the red zone opportunity. And those are opportunities that have not been particularly kind to the Sun Devils in terms of scoring touchdowns. But it was nice to see a little bit of a departure from that in that final drive.
Yeah, they were able to finally get the game-winning touchdown, a 1-yard plunge by Raleek Brown. And that was a game where Texas Tech's defense really had the Sun Devil ground game bottled up. And so, yeah, you mentioned Sam Levitt did really kind of do things through the air, 319 yards. And, really, of course, Jordan Tyson's going to put up Jordan Tyson hero Superman type numbers. But Jaren Hamilton, the Alabama transfer, finally had the breakout game that he has been kind of teasing at in practices. Over 100 yards receiving, some 2 catches, over 40 yards. And but yeah, you mentioned, Joe, the red zone woes that really have kind of kept ASU in these one-score games. You figure if they're just even national average level, a lot of these games they're winning comfortably, but instead it's ASU fans, heart rates are spiking all throughout Tempe.
Yeah, Jesus Gomez, place kicker, was once again Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Week, which is a cool thing to have happen.
Yeah.
But you don't want ASU to put him in these situations. A reason that he's getting these awards is because he's kicking a lot of field goals in circumstances where ASU realistically should be scoring touchdowns, but they got the touchdown by Relique Brown when it mattered most to take the lead. But there were other issues, especially in special teams. Talk about ripping into it. I think it's time to let her rip.
Yeah. Jesus Gomez, he's good. 4 for 4. A couple other positives. Zechariah Sample, his first career touch, had a 31-yard punt return. That's good. Roman Petrie partially blocked the punt. All right, now let's talk. Because other than that, it was abysmal. Kenny Dillingham ripped into his special teams units in the post game. Said he's going to take a more active approach, and it's needed because they were, as in his words, embarrassing in terms of the coverage, the bad punts, allowing a partially blocked punt that played a key role in Texas Tech's rally. It's just week in, week out, Joe. Special teams is a huge deficit for the Devils.
I have never been as nervous on kickoffs. Ever. I don't think I've ever been this nervous on kickoffs to where you're like, I don't know if they're going to run it back for a touchdown. I don't know if they're going to kick it up in the air. There are so many possibilities, and not many of them are great right now. So yeah, when ASU's kicking off or punting, it is a nervous situation in practice this week. Kenny Dillingham, he's taken more of a role with that. So we'll see if there are any sort of strategic changes or functional changes or anything we see on the field. It's something that needs to improve because ASU is really getting some momentum. A lot of things are possible, but those red zone issues, the special team issues, these are momentum killers. Things can stop an otherwise encouraging season dead in its tracks.
It's interesting. ASU is now in really good spot there, ranked and coming off this big win with 2 glaring weaknesses. So that really just kind of shows maybe the parity of the Big 12, but also the room for ASU to grow down the home stretch as they try to get back to the Big 12 championship game. But after the break, we're going to be talking to a trio of Sun Devils on both sides of the ball, all of whom played a major role in getting ASU's big-time win over Texas Tech. So there's a photo from Saturday's game after one of your big catches, huge smile on your face. Just to have that breakout game over 100 yards, how good did that feel? Just knowing, kind of the things you've gone through and worked towards over the last first few weeks.
That felt great, especially like having my family out there. That was really what I was most proud about. Like even after the first catch, I got excited, and I was back on the sideline. I was waving at my dad and stuff, but. Honestly, that was really like the highlight of it all. Like not really me playing, but just my family being out there just to witness that. They've been with me through it all. They've been with me from the start, and they've always supported me and just, helped me along the way. Whether I was sky high or rock bottom, they've always been there and just supported me.
Was it weird making a catch that wasn't for over 40 yards?
Not necessarily. It's just another routine play. Like, of course, I like the deep bombs, but you got to make everything underneath too. Yeah.
So, when you guys were obviously facing one of the best defenses in the entire country, put up 26 points on them, when you look back on the film, what were some of the keys to the overall offensive success against a really good Texas Tech D?
I feel like us just sticking to our keys, just playing our game. We didn't really get out of our rhythm, and I feel like that's a good thing. When you play those type of games, it's easy for teams to, switch up and try to do this and run schemes that they haven't run just to win. But I feel like with us, we just played our game, and we practiced, we executed, and ultimately when we went out there, we just did our thing.
I think Saturday is going to be kind of a big moment for you just in terms of, obviously after the first couple of weeks looking for that consistency, but having that breakthrough that, brighter days are ahead.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Every week we building, every week we grinding, and it's just on the up and up. Like, I don't ever want to, take a step back one week and, do this the next week. Like, no, I'm always grinding, trying to stay consistent and trying to go up.
Was it like playing, with Sam, showing that grit? Obviously he's not 100% out there, but, being able to do the things that he was able to do and get his playmakers the ball.
Oh, Sam, he a dog. He a soldier. I tell him every day, like, the stuff that he does is just amazing. For him to just come back and just, suck it up and just be there, be a captain, be a veteran on the team, it's all what we need, and I know he can do it.
You ready?
Question? Yeah. So, you always come around, with the double earrings on both sides, obviously, chains and everything. So, so what's your style? What would you say your style is, of wearing, dressing and stuff like that?
My style is very eclectic. Like, ever since I was young, I always mixed and matched patterns. I always didn't want to do what everybody else is doing. So, when I see something, I just got to make it me. Like, I'm not just going to wear something basic. Like, I always got to put my own touch on something. So, I wouldn't box my style into just one thing. It's just if I like it, I'm going to turn it into whatever I want, and I'm going to rock it.
Okay, so would you say you're rich? You're one of the richest?
Here we go, man. You're rich. You're rich. That's been funny, bro.
So, of course, you guys got another tough opponent, Houston coming to town. Really good defensive team. You know, what's some of the early scouting report on them? Some of the things they like to do from on the defensive side.
What I seen, some of the stuff was similar to Tech. You know, they like to go quarters a lot. Even some of their corners, like I seen some of their techniques. Some of them like to play press a little bit more. Some of them like to be a little bit off and, you know, kind of play catch technique. But I feel like it's something that we can handle. It's nothing that should necessarily be a challenge to us if we just go out there and execute.
All right, so obviously you guys had, going up to Utah, didn't get the result you wanted. So you're coming off of that game, knowing that you have a top 10 team come down. What would you feel is kind of the defensive mindset heading into the last game?
To be physical and show that we are actually physical.
And then, of course, you guys come out, force punts on the first 4 possessions, a turnover on downs on the next one. How did you feel like kind of that physicality and through practice kind of set the tone early on in Saturday's game?
I think more so it's just showing that we're back. Like, we can do this. Like, we can hang with anybody. We're the best of the best. We just got to go out there and prove it and put in the work to go out there and execute on the field.
And then you've been, obviously had with 3 pass breakups, I believe, in that game, flying all over the field. When you look back on that, kind of collective effort against the Red Raiders, what kind of things jump off, on tape as to, how you guys were so successful?
I think we communicated well, and I think more so we were just all fast and physical. Like, that makes up for a lot of mistakes, and yeah.
Now you got a few starts under your belt. How much more comfortable are you feeling in the greater scope of this defense?
I feel very, very comfortable and very, very confident, but I believe in everybody around me, and I know when we come to play, it's going to be a bad day for the offense.
With learning from a guy like Xavier Alford, with his all conference honors, and how impactful has he been on your success so far?
I think very much so. Like, I'm doing good because of him. Like, he's the one that's actually critiquing me, seeing like how I'm doing things, how I'm pedaling, my read, my keys. He's making sure that I see it the way we see it the same. We see it just like Coach Ward see it, and so it's really helped me slow down the game and be faster and play faster.
And another really tough opponent, 6-1, Houston coming to town. What are some of the things that kind of maybe jump out about what the Cougars like to do on offense?
I think they're all technically sound, very, very disciplined. They don't really make a lot of mistakes, so we just have to make sure we're disciplined as well and not making mistakes, so to not give up big plays and stuff.
Facing an offense that has uses the quarterback a ton in the run game, what kind of challenges does that present?
It presents a lot of challenges. We're one high defense, and when you run in the quarterback, it's y'all have 1+ in the run game, so we just need to come, fill the gaps and make sure we take up the space so he doesn't have room to create.
Now, you had a sold-out crowd cheering you guys on Saturday. How much of an impact does that energy and that noise have for a defense?
That's very much so impactful. Like, it's hard for us to communicate, but it's also hard for the offense to communicate. And if we just know our calls and know what we're doing, it's more harder for them to communicate, the snap count, all things like that. All that matters. So we're very, very thankful for the crowd.
So when you got the news that you're gonna make that start against one of the best defenses in the country, what were some of the thoughts and what was your reaction?
Very nervous, obviously. A little self-doubt at first, but talking with my teammates and obviously putting my faith in the Lord, overcome that, and preparation as well helped me to overcome that. And then after playing the first drive, really kind of dipping my toe in it. I kind of felt comfortable, kind of treated like practice a little bit. And obviously it's like, obviously against a good opponent, but kind of just not mind tricks.
How did your teammates and some of those veterans in that offensive line room kind of help you get ready for facing the Red Raiders?
Very supportive, trusted me. I have to say Skrill, Kyle, Jamedo, and Max. They all talk to me. They say, whatever you call, we trust, as long as we're on the same page. Right or wrong, we're all right. We're all wrong together. And that support kind of just, elevate me, help me be confident in my cause.
Welcome back to Speak of the Devils. You know what time it is. You know the routine. You know the drill. It's time for the Sun Devils Stock Report. I'm going to launch a series of questions Brad's way is either going to buy or sell. A lot of this is talking about the Big 12 conference as a whole, but let's begin. Buy or sell. Other than the Big 12 championship game last year against Iowa State, all things considered, last weekend's win over Texas Tech is not just the next most important win of the Kenny Dillingham era at ASU, but it's the next most important win for ASU football in the last decade.
See, that's interesting. So, of course, the obvious caveat, the Big 12 title. Put that off to the side. So, this has been a kind of an interesting, as I went back and researched, this has been kind of maybe a rough decade-ish in terms of there's been great moments individually, but in terms of the grand wins that have, far-reaching impacts and have championship level implications, it's been pretty sparse. I'm going to buy this because ASU took down the conference favorite, reinstilled confidence in the direction of this team that came in. It was so hyped. And I think also, in addition to being important for the wins in the race for the Big 12 title game, it also was just a good narrative win. Good, and this is something I think that the Sun Devil fan base needed. I think probably the biggest win other than this was taking down number 5 Oregon in 2019, but that broke a 4-game losing streak. So in that last decade that you specified, not a whole lot of meaningful wins that I think are going to match what we saw last Saturday.
Buy or sell. Despite losing to ASU, Texas Tech should still be considered the favorite to win the Big 12.
I'm going to buy that. I mean, they took on the Devils with their backup quarterback. Texas Tech fans are now very quick on social media to point out. They have a very soft remaining schedule, relatively speaking. And, while we've given grace to ASU's defense having kind of an outlier performance in their loss to Utah, I'm going to give the same benefit to the doubt to Texas Tech. This is a really, really good football team on both sides. They narrowly pulled off that win against ASU. So I think right now it was a huge win for ASU, but I think Texas Tech's still in the driver's seat.
So as we know, there are 2 teams right now in the Big 12 who are undefeated in conference play. That's BYU and Cincinnati. So buy or sell, neither of those 2 currently undefeated teams in Big 12 play will end up in the Big 12 championship game. Neither of them.
I will buy this. They actually play each other on November 22nd, so someone's getting a loss there. Both of them have pretty tough schedules. BYU is at Iowa State and at Texas Tech over the next 2. Cincinnati faces Baylor, U of A, but they have to go on the road at Utah, tough place to play, at TCU. They've had really good seasons. They're really quality teams. I just don't think that they're getting out unscathed.
Buy or sell, ASU will both sell out every home game this year, and they will win every home game this year.
I'm going to buy that as well. I guess I'm in a very buying type of mood today. I think that if the momentum is and the buzz is palpable. I mentioned the narrative implications of getting that win over Texas Tech. You're keeping that fan base activated, and I think when you look at the home slate, Houston, West Virginia, Arizona, those are teams ASU should roll.
Buy or sell, we cannot truly say that ASU is back on track after the Texas Tech win. That'll be determined after the next 2 games.
I'm going to sell that. I think ASU is, in fact, definitely back on track. Now, that just because you're on track doesn't mean you're on cruise control or that things are going to be coming easy for you or everything's going to be going your way. But I think they're back on track because what we saw was ASU football. It's gritty, tough. It was a close 1-score win. But I think that it put them right back in the race, and that's really where ASU needs to be with this team this season.
Buy or sell, all things considered, ASU is in a better position at 5-2 after 7 games this year than it was at 5-2 after 7 games last year.
This is a good final stock, but I went and I bought it simply because I think this time around, this 2025 group of Sun Devils, and we've talked all season long about the similarities to last year. This group has the experience of doing it by and large. There's a lot of veterans, a lot of returning faces, and with no current ranked opponents left on the schedule as of this recording and the Territorial Cup game at home, I think ASU is primed to make a run over these last 5 games of the season to get back to Arlington and have a very strong chance at defending their Big 12 championship crown. So after this break, Joe and I will be back and we'll be taking a deep dive into ASU's Saturday evening battle against the Houston Cougars.
Welcome back to Speak of the Devils. Now, last weekend's win was a momentous one, but you know what? It's time to turn the page, put that one in the past, and look ahead because ASU has a high-quality opponent coming to town in the 6-1 Houston Cougars. This will be the 10th all-time meeting between these 2 programs. Here's a little odd fact if you didn't know about it. The last time these 2 met, December of 1990 in Japan, a game that used to be called the Coca-Cola Classic. ASU played Houston, a game in which Houston quarterback David Klingler set was an NCAA record of 716 passing yards. Thankfully, that was bested by Washington State's Connor Halliday in 2014. So some really unique, quirky history between these 2 programs who are playing each other for the first time as Big 12 opponents.
Yeah, and it's going to be a big game. And all of a sudden, maybe at the end of the year, you thought, okay, this is just another game on the schedule. This one actually has some Big 12 title game implications.
Yeah, Houston, a much improved team. They won 4 games each of the last 2 years. Willie Fritz at head coach. He did some great things at Tulane before he went to Houston. Again, they're 6-1 now. They've already improved their year-over-year record by 2 games. They're already bowl eligible. They're right outside the top 25. Now, one knock against them is that they really haven't played any world beaters. Their one loss was a 24-point loss at home to Texas Tech. Looking at this Houston offense, they have a lot of important transfers, as do many teams. Connor Wegman, formerly a 4 and in some cases a 5-star recruit, signed with Texas A&M to begin his career. He averages a little under 200 passing yards per game, 11 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, a real solid ratio there. He can also run the ball, 243 net rushing yards with a team best 6 rushing touchdowns. So he's someone that he may not stand out in a massive way in many categories, but he can get it done in a few different ways.
Yeah, this is an offense that likes to really run the ball, has some triple option elements. And you mentioned Connor Wegman is going to be heavily involved in the quarterback run game as well. Running back Dean Connors is kind of a bell cow type of back. And so this is going to be a real ground and pound type of offense, but you can't overlook what they can do through the air.
Yeah, 2 names to keep in mind are Amari Thomas at wide receiver and especially Tanner Koziol. He's a 6'7", maybe 6'8" tight end. He is second in the nation among tight ends in terms of receptions. He's someone that definitely has an NFL payday coming his way. So those are 2 names to keep an eye on. Generally speaking on offense, Houston, not great, not bad, kind of a mid-tier team in a lot of ways. Now, flipping over to the defense, a few names to keep in mind there. Nose guard Carlos Allen, he's got 48 tackles, which is spectacular for an interior defensive lineman like that. Jalen Garner, he also ties for the team high with 48 tackles. Rook Brown in defensive back does a little bit of everything. Defensively, again, kind of similar thing. They're in the top 30 to 40 nationally in a lot of categories. Nothing that really stands out among national leaders, but they're just solid across the board.
Yeah, it's really been the strength of this Houston team, helping them get to that 6 win mark so quickly. A very active front. You're going to have a lot of multiple looks, and the edges and the kind of the perimeter of that defense really has done a good job of keeping things kind of funneled into the middle.
So let's talk about our keys to the game and how we see this one shaking out. One that we're just going to say is a general key. You got to avoid that emotional hangover after such a huge win against Texas Tech. These things happen in college sports where it's difficult to have that same level of momentum week after week. For me, you got to do better in the red zone. Houston ranks 102nd nationally in red zone defense, but 15th nationally in red zone offense. You listen to our podcast version of the show, we go in a lot of depth about the red zone issues that needs to improve.
It very much does. ASU's pass rush got up to a hot start, fizzled off a little bit over the last couple weeks. Houston's offensive line, a lot of new faces, still finding its chemistry there. I think this is an opportunity for them to get after Connor Wegman in a good way.
Another key, you got to keep the defensive momentum. ASU played with their hair on fire last week against Texas Tech. They did the opposite the week before against Utah. Keep it at a high level.
I want to see Jaren Hamilton continue his breakout. He's a deep threat that can really swing the momentum of the game, throw a couple deep balls his way.
Special teams is going to be huge. Both these teams struggle. ASU struggles a lot. Again, that's got to clean up.
My number 1 key, ASU must put together a full 60 minutes. We've seen them get close in recent weeks, but I want to see them offensively, defensively, special teams play a full, complete game.
As far as scoreboard predictions, I expect a close game. That's pretty much what ASU plays, but they win at home. That's going to continue. Sun Devils keep it going, 30-24.
I see a game where ASU kind of maybe stumbles a little bit to try to find their way against a quality team, but ultimately is in control throughout the majority of this game as they go on to a 27-17 win and become bowl eligible in their own right. Joe and I will be back next week here on Arizona's Family Sports as we recap what happened against the Cougs and look ahead to a key road trip to Iowa State.